The world is made up of many great cultures and people. People from the big continents such as Australia or North America, and some of these countries are completely surrounded by water while having great connections with its neighbors. And today we are going to revisit a country that is its own island and does just that. An island and a country known as Sri Lanka. Hey guys, what's going on? Dave Walpole here, and welcome back to FTD Facts. Now, for some of you guys who are watching this for the first time, this is actually a part 2 to our first facts on Sri Lanka. And the reason for this is because there's a lot to talk about when it comes to this country, and it's not just its culture, but it's also you guys. You guys wanted us to do a part 2 to this video, so we are. People like Sadir Johnson and Moise Asufali, but we also gotta thank you viewers like R. Demhapali, Rakitha Ganawardine, Thisara Rasta, Shavinka R, and of course Ned76 for sending us some facts about this country because we missed it in the first one. And before we get into that, guys, I do have a question of the day, and that is, what is your favorite movie and why? As a matter of fact, screw it, let's pick your top 3 favorite movies. That's really hard to do. Now, first of all, what makes Sri Lanka great? Well, it was the first country in all of Asia to grant women the right to vote. This happened in 1931, just 3 years after the United Kingdom granted the same rights. And because of it, it allowed for the first female to be voted as Prime Minister, which we did talk about that in our last video. But it is quite amazing to see that only 30 years later, you pretty much had a female running the entire country, and for such a long time. Now, for this next fact, I gotta admit I'm being a little selfish here because it's talking about Horace Walpole, which, you know, my name's Walpole, so who knows, I might be related to him. Now, he was the man that coined the term serendipity when writing to an old friend. But the funny part is, that term just came from an old name for Sri Lanka. And that name was Serendip. I don't know where it came from because I only know it as Ceylon. Now, if you ever plan to visit Sri Lanka, you really gotta check out Kalpitiya, because it's a place that's not just pretty, but you can get the opportunity to do some serious dolphin and whale watching. And it's known throughout the world for being a place where you can spot a lot of blue whales. And the reason for this is because, well, there's not only a lot of reefs there, but it is also considered an animal sanctuary. And when it comes to water, well, unfortunately, we gotta talk about one really horrific event that happened in Sri Lanka in 2004. And that is when Sri Lanka was hit from a giant tsunami in the Indian Ocean on December 26, 2004. The infamous result of this natural disaster ended with 30,196 deaths in Sri Lanka alone. And not only that, but because of this natural disaster, over 1 million people were displaced from their homes. For example, in the town of Talwada, the holiday train, the Queen of the Sea, was struck by the tsunami, and unfortunately 1,700 people died on board. In the aftermath of the destruction, Sri Lanka received donations from its own cricket teams as well as popular teams from Australia, England, and India, and it became an international issue, gaining help from countries from all around the world. Now, moving away from the dark spots, let's talk about the Araya rock fortress. Many do consider this amazing historic monument an 8th wonder of the world. It is an ancient old fortress that was selected by King Kasayapa between 447 and 495 BC. But when the king died, the fortress was abandoned, and currently it stands at 660 feet, and not only is it a popular place with tourists, but it also became a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1982. And speaking about heritage sites, perhaps we should talk about the world's first hospital. It is rumored that Sri Lanka was the first country to have a hospital for humans and even animals. Located in Mahintale, an area, a mountain peak, it is sometimes referred to as Sigiri. And this mountain peak was the place where Buddhism was first born in Sri Lanka. And the hospital itself was simply just a bath where people bathed in medicinal oil. Although Sri Lanka is a beautiful country, its military history is known for its great prowess. And the Sri Lanka Armed Forces may have only been around officially for 18 years. The country has had evidence of at least 2,000 years of military service. But the amazing thing about its current military is it has a pretty balanced gender ratio. In 2010, it was reported that there were over 167,000 males in service, with over 162,500 females fighting for their country. Now, a great country can't be great without its great donating programs. And it has a donation donation program that is known throughout the entire world. And that is the Eye Donation Society, which began in 1958 by Deshwan Bandhu Dr. Hudson Silva. And back then, he was just simply collecting corneas for transplants, but now it's grown to over 450 branches with a manpower of 15,000 people. And it is so popular, over 90,000 people throughout the world have signed up to have their eyes donated upon the event of death. And this program is so popular that it is even recognized by the United Nations. Now, although the military and people of Sri Lanka have seen many good years and days, they've also had their dark years and decades. The old Ceylon force was present during the Second World War, but it was most prominent during the Four Elam Wars, also known as the Sri Lanka Civil War. This war lasted over 25 years, beginning on July 23, 1983, ending on May 18, 2009. And it was a long fight between the Sri Lankan government and the rebel force known as the LTTE, who were eventually defeated. However, the civil war took the lives of approximately 80,000 to 100,000 people. But now, with the war long gone and over, Sri Lanka focuses on building opportunities for its people and, of course, memories for its tourists. And the tourism of Sri Lanka is growing fast. To give you an idea, a year after the war in 2010, Sri Lanka had 654,000 people visit the country. But only 6 years later, in 2016, that has grown to over 2 million people. With extensive waterfalls and coastlines over 1,600 kilometers, there is much to do in this country. But one of the funnest things to do is surfing. Beaches like Hikkaduwa, Talala South, and Marissa are known throughout the world as some of the best locations to surf, and it is something that you might want to check out. So there you have it, guys. That is our facts on Sri Lanka. It's been an awesome time talking about this country and revisiting it. I feel like we might even get a part 3 sometime in the near future. With that in mind, guys, if you guys know any facts that we missed, be sure to put them down there in the comments section below so we can do a part 3. And before all you guys go, don't forget to give us a recommendation for a future video. But also, here on FTD Facts, we are trying to grow our community, and with that, we want to bring you guys into our videos. We want to show the world what our community is like in their countries and places that we've talked about. So if you would like to send us footage of you on vacation at a place, or perhaps even footage of you in your own country, feel free to send it to ftdfacts@gmail.com. But that's it for me, guys. I'm going to get out of this video. But once again, it has been an awesome time talking about Sri Lanka, a country that is vastly changing, and by reputation, it is growing larger than the island itself. An astonishing place of history and wildlife, a place where one can dig their feet into the sand and be at peace with the clean, clear ocean air. It is the mighty country known as Sri Lanka, the teardrop of the Indian Ocean. But it is a tear of hope and spirituality.